So, I've been wanting to make this video for a while. I was originally going to make this video when Battleborn's server shut down a few months ago, but I ended up getting really lazy and I ended up not doing it. But now I think is a pretty good time to make this video. So, for those who don't know, Sony have officially announced that they're going to be shutting down the storefronts for the PS3, Vita, and the PSP in July and August. And that means that you will no longer be able to buy any digital games on any of those platforms after that point. Now, this is kind of big because there are a ton of games that are only available digitally on those storefronts. And once the storefronts are gone, you will no longer be able to get those games through legitimate means. And that is really sad. And that's why I wanted to make this video. Because game preservation is really important. And I really don't think enough people care about this stuff. And we aren't really doing enough to make sure that these games are preserved. Games are an art form, just like movies and music and stuff like that. And with movies and music, most of that stuff you can still watch and listen to this very day. Even like some really old stuff, you can still watch and listen to that stuff to this very day. Now, a lot of that is thanks to physical media. If physical media didn't exist, a lot of that stuff probably would have been lost to time. But thankfully, because we have physical backups of all this stuff, we can preserve all that stuff. Now, we're entering a very digital focused era where physical media is starting to become a lot less prevalent than it used to be, and digital media, digital only stuff, is becoming a lot more popular. Now, that isn't necessarily a completely terrible end of the world thing, but a lot of digital media nowadays has DRM on it. And if you don't know what DRM is, it's basically stuff that companies implement into their products to prevent people from just taking a digital file and uploading it anywhere on the internet and sharing it. And I can understand why that's in place, but DRM has the side effect of making preservation a lot harder, because the same things that anti-piracy measures try to prevent are also the same things that we need in order to preserve these games. So a good example of this is actually Battleborn. So Battleborn is a online only game, meaning you could not play the game without a connection to the game's servers. Even though the game had a full-blown single-player campaign, and I also believe the game even had split-screen co-op, you could not do any of that without authenticating with the game's servers first. Now, I believe the developer's official reason for why the game had this online requirement was because they didn't want people modifying their save files and getting to like max level before they should have, or getting all the like cosmetics or whatever. I can't exactly remember why. But because of that one reason alone, this game is completely unplayable nowadays. They shut down the servers about a few months ago, and now the game is completely unplayable for every single person who even legitimately bought the game. They cannot play the game anymore. And yeah, we can't rely on these servers that are required to play these games to be up forever. They will shut down eventually, just like how we can't rely on PlayStation Network being up forever to be able to download these games. Remember how I said that the PSN stores are shutting down for the last gen consoles? You will still be able to download games that you already owned, but eventually the servers for that are also going to shut down forever. And even games that you have legitimately purchased will be gone forever, which is why we need to be working a lot harder to make sure that this stuff doesn't happen. Now, thankfully, with physical media, it still exists, and games that are released physically, for the most part, are fine. If servers ever shut down, you can still, pop in the disc and play them, as long as the game itself isn't online only, which is nice. But with digital only games, a lot of that stuff's probably going to get lost forever, at least through legitimate means. And with consoles, the only way to be able to play those games again will be to mod your console and, pirate them, basically, which really sucks. But even with some of the newer consoles, even physical media can have an expiration date. For example, with the PS4, something new was just discovered with it, and I don't know if it's like a bug or if it's an intentional feature, but it's definitely there on the PS4, where certain features of the PS4 rely on the internal clock inside the system, which that's actually pretty normal. Like for keeping, the time of day or like the date and stuff like that, that's actually pretty normal. But the PS4 also uses the internal clock to keep track of trophies. And that internal clock is actually kept track of using a battery that's inside the console. And when that battery dies, the console can no longer keep track of the time. And as a result, it can't keep track of trophies anymore. Meaning, if you boot up literally any game with trophy support, it will no longer function until you reconnect the system to the internet and sync the clock via Sony's own servers. Even disc games won't work. As long as that disc game has trophy support, it won't work unless the battery is working correctly and is synced with Sony's own servers. Which is really going to suck when Sony decides to shut down those servers that authenticate the time. And when that happens, basically any system with a dead battery is just going to become a brick unless you just want to play demos or something. And that is obviously pretty scary, especially when you consider that Sony are completely fine with shutting down services like PSN and stuff like that, as we're seeing with the PS3. And actually, the PS3 also has a similar battery issue, but it only affects digital games, not physical ones at least. So that's good-ish. Now, my point is that stuff like this makes preservation extremely hard, especially for games. And companies really don't have a reason to care about preservation either, because by the time they end support for these services, they're not making any profit off of them anyways to really care. And this DRM stuff that a lot of companies implement that will eventually make these digital games and even some physical games completely inaccessible one day, they're not really hurting their bottom line anyways. So these companies really don't have a reason to care about that stuff. And a lot of people also just really don't care because it's not really affecting them in the moment either, which also really sucks because it lets these companies get away with this stuff all the time. And that's why I wanted to make this video. I wanted to get this out there. I wanted to show people that they really should be caring about this stuff. Because if they don't, who knows, maybe these companies are going to get a lot stronger with how they handle things, and eventually everything is just going to have an expiration date and is going to get lost to time eventually. And that's probably going to happen unless we do something about it now. And maybe, hopefully, we can try to push these companies to maybe lay off on the DRM. So yeah, that's why I wanted to make this video, just hopefully to make more people care about this issue, because I feel like not enough people really care about it. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.